Right. If you have been trying to get your business together, you are in business, you have things going on for you, but you're just like, I wonder if there's anybody who can feel what's really going on in my life, right? What's going on in my business. You want to make sure you stay tuned because Malika and I are really about to have this tell all of what 2024 has really been like for us. I would introduce myself. Malika would introduce herself, but we gonna jump right in because it's been real. Like it is November, Malika.
I can't even believe it's November. Like, where did the year go? Where did the year go? I remember just what seemed like a couple of months ago, I was just transitioning out of corporate America and hey, trying to figure it out, right? Like worried and concerned and trying to figure it out. And here I am, a year still standing.
Still standing.
Still standing. So I'm like,
Still
wow.
standing. Yeah. I think my biggest lesson this year, and I got it like last night, was that the level of like mental, emotional, physical health and how that connects to your financial health was unknown to me.
Mm,
And I was watching this guy and he was talking about how him changing his life literally changed his business, and what he was doing. And it's interesting because I talked to someone named Lisa Smith. She's a health coach, and she talks about like brain fog and all of that because of what you eat. And I'm just like, yeah, you know that, right? You know you need to exercise and you'll get in a period where you're doing it. But I didn't recognize it. Some days I'm like, where are my results? Well, my results is in my discipline, and then I miss my discipline somewhere.
mm-hmm. I
Right. And
can
I think
relate.
like the stuff that was mattering really mattered to the business, but I matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you about to say?
No, I was gonna say absolutely. I can totally relate to that. For me, the discipline is always been there, you know what I mean? But it's just when you are pursuing entrepreneurship, it's a different level of discipline that you need to have versus when you're working for corporate America. And a lot of times, for many of us, it takes something for us to be able for that to actually click and to make that switch, right? And for me, it was me realizing and reflecting that I was not being as productive as I was. Like I could not continue to do the same things that I was doing working at corporate America, because even though that worked for that and I was being productive, it did not work for me growing my business. And so I had to make certain changes and certain shifts to be able to do that, to start to see, okay, the productivity now, now I need to do X, Y, and Z for me to actually be, see that the productivity that I'm doing now as an entrepreneur is very, is more so than what I was doing for corporate America. So that was, yeah, that's definitely, the discipline is definitely different in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's easier for you to kind of relax in a sense when you know someone else is responsible for bringing home the bacon.
Yeah.
You are responsible for bringing home the bacon. There is a level of like lax that doesn't happen, and then that could cause stress, and then that could cause you to maybe stress eat, and then now you're like out of whack in the discipline that you may have had
Right.
when you had a false sense of security in corporate America. Because a lot of times we think that entrepreneurship doesn't give us any security, but our 9 to 5 really didn't give us security either, because it
Nope.
was things they weren't telling us at the highest level of the office about financials and things of that nature that would make or break, whether we had a Christmas or not.
Right.
And so I think kind of just navigating that and thinking through that was something that I had to do. But then on the flip side, I found like I would say divine success in uncommon networking and uncommon partnerships.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I never even thought about that. Um, yeah, yeah. Now that you said that and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow. Yeah, places that you would not normally, or people that you maybe would not normally network with, if you will, or did not even think or consider as maybe a resource. Um, yeah, that's profound, Jen. That's profound. Tell me a little bit about that, how that worked out for you, and I'll share um, my story on that.
Yeah, I think like for me, like sometimes I have this inclination to do something that I may deem random or that doesn't make sense to most as an entrepreneur. So recently, it was like I'm looking through things and I see a conference, a church conference, and I'm like, I should have been there. What do you mean you should go down there and vend? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, how do you know entrepreneurs going to be there? Blah blah blah. So I go there, and my intention is to really sell sweatshirts because I have sweatshirts that align with I am and more, and then journals that I have around when I was in law school and assistant principal, whatever. And then while I was there, somebody walked in and connected me to three people that had the ability to change a lot. And then because I was there and I was consistent, people had the opportunity to come up to me, ask me questions, and then know that I am the person to help them structure their business, protect their business, and or ministry. And
Hmm.
so now I'm in a space where I'm like, whoa, I got a whole new target audience that I didn't know was there because I was at an uncommon place to do networking and partnerships. Because when you go to these events, you typically just see people selling shirts, sweatshirts, some type of product, physical product, but no real services. And by the time I left, I had booked calls. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, so there's a level of really sitting with yourself to figure out where are the places and spaces that God is leading me to be because He has a plan that could outdo any marketing plan that you create. Um, and really navigate through that piece. And I think another one is like me presenting in South Carolina at like this close quarters retreat. And the amount of like clients that flowed in from that, I was just like, huh, huh.
Yeah, right.
From a piece of
And
content to a client to a speaking engagement to other
other
clients.
clients, right? Right. Yeah, it's so crazy how connections and business work, right? And what we think we are set out to do, but then God shows us that is something bigger. It's bigger than that being a vendor. It's bigger than selling that shirt. I am moving you into this direction or placing you here. Yeah, you might think it's about selling the shirt, but it's really not. And I say my personal experience was, working with, and I can't even say necessarily working with, but talking to a coach about branding stuff, right? And as a marketer, strategist, in school we learn about different aspects of marketing, branding, which is one of them, right? And as marketers, we can specialize in different areas of marketing, right? But this specific branding expert she's a G at what she does, right? She really, really is. And we were just having a conversation because I was kind of telling her, I'm feeling like I need to maybe rebrand, but I'm not really sure, and blah blah blah. And so she asked me, she was like, well, what do you do? Now I'm thinking rebranding along the lines of still in my little zone, coaching, doing one-on-one coaching, and just, small businesses, and like it was just very, very small minded now that I'm reflecting and looking back. But anyways, and so she started asking me everything that I do and blah 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 blah. And she actually said, have you thought about she's like, you're doing CMO stuff, chief marketing officer stuff. Have you thought about like branding as a fractional CMO? And I was like, what? Well, what is that? It's a fairly new term. It was a fairly new term for me. But when I looked it up as far as what it was doing, this is exactly what I've been doing the whole time, even, going back into corporate America. Even so, that in itself opened up so many more doors, and my vision, even for myself and my business. And it landed, the contract that I have now with the weather company. You know what I mean? Like the contract that I'm working on now with these big oil companies and things like that. And so it's it blows my mind how we are thinking, small, but God has so much bigger plans for us. So
Yeah, I just hear increase. Like you gotta increase what you think, or you gotta submit it to God for like that Ephesians 3:20 life, exceedingly abundantly above all that I could ever ask and or think. So I think that is cool. And I think that's something we all need to have at the back of our head all the time. Like, is it God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell you my little plan, but you go ahead and do whatever it is you got to do.
right.
Help me see, how you see me. Help me see how you see this business so that I can move it forward. I think another thing that I kind of learned was I was spending too much of my time trying to help people that were not ready for me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Ooh,
And how much energy and time does that actually take, you know? Yeah, that's definitely a huge one for me as well. And what they say, knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. Yeah.
yep. And I think part of it is just like, we are very passionate people. Sometimes we want people to be successful, just nurturing and all of that. But it's like, you have to take a step back and go back to the market and go back to the data and go back to the numbers, right? The numbers tell you this is where your energy should be. But for some reason, you keep going over here and just trying to pull this in because you're looking at them, they're drowning. They don't even know it. Right.
Right.
And so, like, I know you know this, but like, that means like they are so unaware of the problem. And then they are unaware of the solution and they're not thinking about solving it in that way. And so, like, I'm like, okay, you need to take a step back based on your data. This is where I need you to recalibrate. And I think one of the scariest things for me this year was like to put so much effort in what the people say you're supposed to do or you have to do, and then for God to be like, I don't want you to do that in that season. I just need you to come off social media. Like, huh?
How long have I been off? I've been off for a minute.
Yeah.
And that was his calling. It was his calling for me to do that. And I'm gonna be honest. Since I have taken that break, I have accomplished some major goals in my business that I was trying to do before. And it was just like I didn't realize like that social media thing at the time was actually noisy for me.
Mm,
It was noisy, and it was creating the chaos that that I actually coach some of my clients on, not, to try to avoid, but I didn't recognize it. I thought it was something that I needed. But in reality, God said, no, you don't need that. This is what I'm giving you everything that you need. You have that. I'm going to take you off. And honestly, let me tell you, I've been enjoying this social media break. really, I really have. But I got some good things coming in 2025. So I'll be popping back on. But
mm.
yeah. But I think it's necessary. So, when we talk about lessons learned and things like that, I think it's definitely necessary as entrepreneurs to take a break from social media and recalibrate and reassess, what your goals are, what you've accomplished, where you're going, and really, is this what you truly feel like you are supposed to be doing and want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Don't be afraid to take that break. I think one of my biggest things that I kind of like leaned into was like I am not looking for, they teach you, to look for demographics. Yes, demographics are really important, but I'm more into the psychographics.
Hmm.
A certain business owner, ministry leader, speaker consultant that has a certain mindset, right? Because sometimes they will be like, well, you need to be talking to X, Y, and Z. You need to be doing this. But it's like, no, I need you to actually value what you're building. I need you to value the vision that you have that you're trying to make happen. And so if you can't value that, then I'm not a person that needs to work with you. And I don't need to convince you that your business is worth protecting. Like those days are behind me, but once I
Yes.
get that like recognition, I could quickly say like, "Oh, you don't have the mindset to have a lawyer."
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and be confident in that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
imagine when you tell somebody that they walk away like, what did she just say? But that that's the reality of it though. That is the reality. And what happens is they'll come back when they're ready, or they won't.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're not wasting your time,
Mhm.
you
Yep.
know?
And I think that's so important for everybody listening and that will watch later is for you to just really identify like, "Oh, okay, these are the minds that I want to shape." What's
Mhm.
that value system that they have? What is important to them? Because then there will be alignment. And I think too, for me, just recognizing how much I'm set apart from different attorneys. They want to get their money, and yes, I want to get my money too, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna oversell you stuff just
Mhm.
because. Like it's
Mhm.
really about like what it is that you need and what's
Right.
right for the assignment that you have in the marketplace.
Right. As we say in sales, the right sizing, right? You
Yep.
want to, right sizing, and doing also, ethics, right? Being ethical about what you do. Like I want to be able to sleep well at night.
Mhm.
So if I know that I charged you $10,000 and I did not come through and provide, trust and believe, like I'm not sleeping well. I'm gonna figure out a way how to get whatever it is done for whatever reason, to make sure that that money that you have invested in your business ultimately is not just in vain.
Yep.
There's so many people out here that's not doing the right thing, right? um and so that's where we stand out, um because it's easy to not do the right thing. It's
It's
very easy. It's very easy not to do the right thing. Sell people dreams and so forth and so on. But yeah, I don't
yeah,
know where I was going with that, but
I think it's like being results driven and not money driven. And I think that's where we see the spirit of mammon coming in. And so many people are taught in that way. They coach in that way. And that's another aha I had this month. I mean, this year is just like, oh, people are out here like not doing God's work, but they're using God as like the new Gucci. Like it's a new accessory to be like, oh God, 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 God. And that's your way to attract people. But if it's God, 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 we should see fruit of it. We should see some type of ethics in place, and we should see some results, right? And when I was just wrapping up this last program that I did, I had the opportunity to like really make them put into practice and test their knowledge, right? So now I know what you do or don't do from here is only because of something internal that you didn't want to implement, not because you didn't have the information,
mhm.
strategy, and practice on how to do it.
Right, right,
Yeah. So
right,
it's like that level
right,
of commitment.
right. And I would say too, another lesson, and in this year that I've learned, is really just holding yourself accountable, right? Really, really, truly holding myself accountable for the things that I could have done better.
Yeah.
Um, the time when you talk about, spending time, going after people who at the end of the day they're not ready. They're not ready for us, right? They may say they're ready, they may feel it, there's certain things that they, may do, but at the end of the day, we as the professional know when that client is ready for what we have. And so just being in tune with that, and again holding myself accountable for putting my time and energy um into that, I gotta own that and say, you know what, this is the reason why I didn't hit X, Y, and Z goal, over the last 90 days, because I was doing this. So how do we change that? So whatever that accountability is, we want to hold ourselves accountable, for the different actions that we take in business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That aligns with me because I wrote down I became comfortable with low results, but had high expectations. So it was just like, I mean, well, I did this, so whatever. But it's like one of the things that I'm going into 2025 is outlining. Okay, so if this is the goal, what do I need? What needs to be my daily routine?
Yep.
Like
And
my daily routine. What's that business rhythm that I need to have? What's the non-negotiable that I need to put in place? What is the distraction blocker that I need to put in place? And I think especially for me, sometimes people will come in, sister me to death, friending me to death, all in the name of just like helping them out for a season. And you'll recognize, like, wait a minute, oh, like you could have done so much more, but you picked up the phone for this, and then that kind of kept you out of this. And so even now, I am screening my accountability partners in a different way.
mm-hmm,
Where is
mm-hmm,
reciprocity in the poor, and what is our protocol for when we are meeting? So we're not just spending time lollygagging. It's like, okay, here are my wins for the week. Here are my growths for the week. Here
right.
is your 20-minute talk through your problem. Let's get to your solution. Here's my 20-minute talk through my problem, get through your solution. Um, and I think some of the things that we learn in our corporate training, we sometimes lose when we go out here because
Mm-hmm,
we automatically turn into survivors,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because we are not trusting the process. And I always tell people, like, I mean, I know I don't create the money, but the reality is there's some level where you got to create the income.
Right.
And you have to find that balance of that creation piece and peace.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, this is all very true. And just to support what you just said is when you talk about, those accountabilities, but part of that also too is the boundaries, right? And so that's again one of those things, those lessons, and I've gotten so much better with that, as an entrepreneur. It's setting those boundaries, and so that if my call with you is an hour coaching call, it's an hour. It's not an hour and 15 minutes. It's not an hour and a half, because see what happens is people will take as much as you allow them to take. And what you have to realize is that your time, you can't get that time back. Right. And so one of those things that I had to do is set those boundaries, not just with my clients, but with family and friends as well. Because if you my goals and my drive and uh my day to day is very different from a person who goes to work at 9 and clocks in at 9 and leaves at 5, or whatever the schedule is. It looks very, very different, right? When you come every 2 weeks, every week, or whatever, you have that paycheck. That's very different from from my life. And so my what I got to do is very different than what you have to do. And again, so it's all about those boundaries and setting those boundaries. So I would say, like, definitely going into 2025, um making sure that those are in place.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to land my plane here. The biggest thing for me is doing. listening in and having a lifestyle to follow uncommon instructions. Because then there is uncommon obedience and then there is uncommon results.
Mhm.
And so I'm just making the thread throughout the year when it'll be like, oh, go follow up with this person and navigating that fear of doing something new. Especially when you've been at one level in your business and you're growing to that next level and you get that next level client, you it's a little intimidating to you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then you have to deal with some imposter syndrome. But I now know that my obedience and how it is that I am going to navigate it is going to produce an unimaginable result. So
Yes.
I can't cheat on my future with fear now.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and so, mhm.
Do you I'm going to ask you this before we go. Do you remember me asking you a while ago? I said when somebody approaches you and asks you to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that role is, whatever that job is, you know it's within the realm of what you do, but you may not have done it before. I said, do you accept the assignment and figure it out after, or do you decline it and then just kind of say, oh, I need to learn afterwards? And I knew for me, what my answer was, but I was not convicted with that answer. And so I asked you, and you gave me the confirmation like, no, you accept the work and you figure out you figure out the logistics of things afterwards. And so again, and I want to say that that's another lesson that I think, as an entrepreneur that I learned throughout this year is basically not needing to know everything up front, right? Not needing to know everything. It's okay to be able to figure things out on the back end, right? And have that confidence that you can actually, do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that comes from like, do you know your track record? Like everything was new to me at some point, and I've always exceeded it. And I know the level of heart and
yeah,
morality that's going into it. So it may be new-ish in a sense, but it's not
right.
something that's like totally like, like
Right.
somebody might take that and be like, well, if somebody asks me to do this, I'm gonna go do this. And it's just like, no.
No.
Like,
No.
it's just like, ha. And then sometimes you have to pay attention to when somebody is trying to pull your gift out of you that you may be having, that may be lying dormant or that you may be running from. Like the law firm piece, I kind of ran from.
Mhm.
Like it was just like, I don't want to deal with this. But it was just like that was the thing that I'm actually supposed to be doing. And every now and again I have this fight. And I see Natalie over here agreeing with us, saying, like, yes, like you gotta say yes and then put the things in place or go get some quick training to figure out that piece where you may be weak so that you could maximize that opportunity. Because again, that may be that uncommon instruction for that uncommon obedience for that uncommon result.
Yep.
Malika, you
Yeah.
got anything else for the people?
I don't have anything other than like I said, it's just the discipline, the boundaries, and being confident, right? Being confident and what we're doing and what you're doing as an entrepreneur. And 2024, my motto was move forward. So continue to move forward. Continue to move forward. You do not need to have all the answers up front, and you won't. We won't have all the answers, but just continue to move forward.
Yeah, and I think mine's is about to come in a little harsh, but stop cheating on your future.
Mm.
Whether it's something you need to shift mentally, whether it's
Mhm.
something you need to shift physically, whether it's something you need to shift financially, your future should be worth more to you than what you are sabotaging it with now, based on a certain set of actions. Because especially, now we're in post election, you got some real decisions to make, right? And I was kind of looking through some things. I was like, if some of this stuff comes into place, I already said, like, what do parents do when they can't decide where their kids go to school and pay for something different, right? So there is a level of freedom. There is a level of financial increase that's probably on the side of you not cheating on your future self.
Yep, absolutely.
Y'all, it's been great. Malika and I are going to see you again in 2 weeks, and be ready because we have something that's coming out and rolling out for you all to make sure that you're actually set up for success for 2025. Listen, y'all, do more, be more, and have a real conversation with yourself. You see, we did, and we told y'all.
Right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Take care.